everybody. I found the last presentation from Mr. Shanker very interesting. Right now, at this point in time, we've got people in our office who will follow blogs every day to understand what people are saying and thinking about our brand. We interact with those blogs. In fact, when we're launching new cars, we invite the most influential bloggers to come to the vehicle launch because they're so influential in forming the opinion of customers and potential buyers. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Renault just because we're a new brand in India, in case you don't know who we are, just a few moments on that. And then I'll really talk to you about the way in which we brought the Renault brand into India and the challenges we've faced and how we've overcome them. So just before we start, a very quick question. I ask this question at a lot of these events. When did Renault start selling products in India? And most people will say around 2007, 2008, when we started the joint venture with Mahindra. In fact, it's not true. It was much before that. So this is an advert that I found when I arrived 2 years ago, which talks about a company called Addison & Co., based in Mount Road in Madras. Now, before I tell you the date, this is a very interesting advertisement because not much has really changed in the world of marketing and communication. On the left-hand side of that ad, it talks about Renault, who the brand are, why they can sell the car at a very good price because the exchange rate is very favourable. How topical is that just now? And then it talks about Renault when they started selling cars, #1 in France. That's brand building, and that's one of the most important elements that we consider. And then on the right-hand side, it talks about the features of the car, some very interesting features: 4 detachable wheels with 1 spare wheel, a foot brake, an automatic starter, and they're product-led features, which is really selling the product. So in one ad, we're selling the brand and we're selling the product, and that actually is what we still do today. What's interesting about these features is, even if they're quite basic, at that point in time, these were very innovative features in a product. This came from the Hindu, and it was January 1921. So maybe we're one of the oldest brands in India instead of one of the youngest brands in India. So let me tell you a little bit now about Renault. We're 114 years old. There's only one manufacturer who's been building cars longer than Renault, and that's Mercedes or Daimler. We're #1 in France, #2 in Europe. And with our alliance partner, who is Nissan, we're the 4th largest automotive brand in the world. Under the Renault banner and our own brands, we sold 2.7 million cars. With our alliance partner, Nissan, we sold over 7 million cars last year. And we're present in 118 countries. The chart you can see below just shows you how the company is structured. So obviously we have the controlling interest in Nissan. We have a collaboration with Daimler now. We're doing engine exchanges with them. We have another brand, which is an Eastern European brand called Dacia, which really concentrates on low-cost vehicles. And this is really where the Logan came from. It wasn't actually a Renault. It was actually a Dacia that we marketed as a Renault in India. We also have a share in a company called AB Volvo, who are a major truck manufacturer, one of the biggest European truck brands. We also have our own bank. It's called Renault Credit International, or RCI Bank, and they manage the inventory funding for dealers and also manage vehicle funding for individual customers. We also have a brand called Renault Samsung, based in Korea. It's 80% owned by Renault, and this is a range of products that we sell to the Asian markets. And then finally, we have 25%, and this will change to 50% at the end of this year, interest in a brand called Avtovaz. If you've travelled much in Europe, you might remember a brand called Lada, but this is really the Lada brand in Russia. And this is the reason we've gone with this investment is because, like India, Russia is one of the big developing countries, and we want to give ourselves a foothold. So this is really the business as we know it. Our brand values, innovation is really the one word that was used to describe Renault. We invest hugely in product innovation. We have the largest research and development budget of any car manufacturer. And when we talk about innovation, we don't just mean innovation for the sake of it. We mean innovation for the mass markets. So we try and bring it in at a price that puts innovation into the more mainstream products. We consider ourselves a human company. We try and do everything that we do with the customer in mind. And then lastly, we consider one of our main priorities is to make the vehicle and mobility sustainable. And we know that at some point we will run out of fossil fuel. So eventually we need to look for other ways to power vehicles. And today we're the world leader in electric vehicle technology. India is not ready for that yet, but when the market is ready for it in India, we have a very well established range of electric vehicles that we will bring into the market. So now let me talk about our journey in India. It's quite a short journey really for me. I've been here just for 2 years. After the end of the joint venture with Mahindra, we were really known for the Logan and nothing else. And it was seen as a kind of mundane, quite boring, basic car. Although the positives were very reliable and it was quite spacious, but not really a sexy and aspirational car. And really nowhere near the centre of gravity of Renault as a brand. We had made a lot of investments in India, but at the end of that point, there was no brand equity, really. Nobody really knew who Renault, or Renault, as it is more pronounced in India, was known. We asked lots of people, nobody knew who we were. Some confusion about maybe something to do with Mahindra, but really we had no awareness in India. And that was despite a lot of investment that we had made. So we had two choices. Do we pull out and lick our wounds, or do we go it alone, start again with our own distribution network, bring our own products? That was a huge marketing challenge, but obviously the fact that I'm here was that was the decision we were going to take. Why did we take that decision? India is the last big automotive market that's going to explode. All the other ones have happened. China's happened. South America's happened. This market today is around 2 to 3 million. And in a few years' time, 6 years' time, it will probably be 6 million. Every manufacturer in the world doesn't want to miss the Indian bus because it's the last big bus that you can get onto if you're in this type of business. So for sure we want to be here, and we've invested heavily, and all other manufacturers have an interest to be here. So how do we succeed given what I've just explained? First thing for me, which I think is absolutely critical in any business, is to have a clear vision about what you want to be. And that should start with your long-term vision, and we're here for good. So we built a vision that said, where do we want to be in 10, 20 years' time? And in order to get to that vision, then we worked back with a roadmap. And the roadmap started with a mid-term vision. So where do we go in the mid-phase? And then what do we do now to start that process so that everything takes us in the same direction? And this is a critical thing when you're coming into a market, especially when you're new, is to be clear where you're going and to focus on that. It doesn't mean you don't have to re-navigate. The market changes, the environment changes. You maybe need to change your plan on the way, but your destination must be clear for everybody in the company so that everybody is moving in the same direction. So we set ourselves a clear vision of where we wanted to be. I'll talk to you about that in a moment. Also to understand the market. And I've enjoyed the first presentation that was made by Mr. Seth. I found very interesting. If I tell you my assessment of the Indian consumer, he's very similar when it comes to cars to the consumers that we have anywhere else in the world. They want to buy a car that is good looking. The number one reason why people buy a car, they buy with their eye. That's what we say. But they consider other features as well. They want the car to be reliable. They want good level of features. And more importantly, probably in this market than any other market, the value for money proposition has to make sense. But what is that's the same in every market, really. But what is different here is the way in which the consumer decides to buy his car is different. It's almost a spontaneous purchase in Europe. I've come to the end of my finance agreement. I've paid my last EMI payment. And it's now time to buy a new car. So I quite like the look of that car. I'll go in and have a look at it, test drive, and I'll buy it. In India, you know it doesn't work like that. The word of mouth is very important. Taking advice from other people is very important. And this is why we're very interested in blog activity and what people are saying about our brand. Because people look for much more reassurance before they invest in a brand in India. And as a new brand coming to India, that's one of the biggest challenges that we face. And I will show you how we've dealt with that. So creating brand value is also critical. We could very easily come to market purely on price. Some brands have done that. The problem with it is if you want to go further, the only solution you have is to go further on price. We, like every other manufacturer, are in a business to make a profit, as are our dealers. So we have to find the right level of leverage to put our brand in a position that people are ready to buy the product for the product attributes and be happy to invest in our brand. And if you haven't got those 2 points right, you then have to compensate with discount. And that's not the route that any manufacturer wants to go. Once you start on that road, it's very difficult to come back. So most of our investment and most of our focus today is on focusing on building the brand, to build the brand and make it successful. To do that, we need to make sure that our DNA, both in terms of what we say about our brand and our product, is compatible with what the Indian customer expects. So there's no point, for example, in bringing a 6-litre petrol engine that does 2 miles to the kilometre in a market that we're in today. So this is what I mean about making sure that the products we bring and what we say about our brand are in line with what the expectation of the customer has. And also we need to prove those points. Something else for me that's important, this is really the critical point in setting up a business anywhere, is to make sure you have a good management team and a good local management team. When I came into India just about 2 years ago to set up the sales and marketing organisation, there was 4 people. Three of us were expats and 1 Indian guy who was on HR. Now we have about 70 people and only 2 expats, of which I'm 1. And when I'm recruiting for staff in India, because we're trying to take this long-term view, I don't recruit somebody and assess them on their ability to do the job that I'm advertising for. I recruit them with that in mind, but also to be able to see the next job that I'm going to put them into, so that I've got longevity and that I can see this as somebody I can develop going forward. So if I don't feel this is somebody that I can promote and develop in the business, even if they have the right competency for the job today, I still won't take them. And already I can tell you, in my organisation, I've already identified the candidates who are potentially my replacements when I move out of this job, because I want my replacement to be an Indian replacement, because we need to have that understanding of the Indian market, and we need to have good people. And then lastly, fast, efficient, frugal and profitable. Most manufacturers in India took about 10 years to get into profit. That's not an acceptable position for Renault. We want to be back into profit probably by 2013. That's about 1.5 years after our entry into India. To do that, we need to go very quickly. We need to be efficient in what we do and not spend unnecessarily. So spend where it's important to spend, but to be careful in how we manage the expenditure of the business. What are our objectives? Make sure they're clearly defined. We want Renault to be established as an independent brand post-M&M. And these objectives are shared with all our staff so that everybody is clear this is the direction the company is going in. Develop a brand vision to provide a clear direction for communication and product. And this is so that the reason the brand vision is important is whenever we talk about advertising or communication, we need to be clear that it's all moving in the same direction to get the best bang for our buck. If we're not clear on our brand vision, you end up giving lots of messages that dilute your core direction. So we have a very clear brand vision and we know the direction we're going in. We have 5 products that we're launching. I'll talk about them in a minute in order to build our volume. And then to open our dealerships in line with the introduction of new products.